Good morning, everybody. This is Don Murray, and I'm here with Mark Ireland from our Winnipeg office, and together we're going to do the CAD and GIS and show you a little bit of how to use FME to exchange data between GIS and CAD systems. So there's pictures of us there, and we're the presenters today. I'm also on standby looking after questions for us today is Mark Stokes, who is the manager of the professional services team, and Dan Eisminger, who is a product specialist specializing in support at SAFE. So please ask questions. It's questions that help us get better, and for sure we'll get back to you with the answers to all your questions, and we'll make those available. Okay. So who is SAFE Software? We're a company of about 100 people. We've been specializing in moving data for almost 20 years now. Our secret headquarters is in Vancouver, and the reason we say it's secret is because we're actually in a suburb of Vancouver, a place called Surrey, which is just to the south of the city. And we focus on two things at SAFE. The first one is building products that move data, and the second one is we talk about the restaurant models providing good service. So, if you're trying to use our products, whether you're just evaluating or whether you're a customer, please rely on us, contact us for support, and we're happy to get back to you. Okay. So some of the data types here. So what does FME do? We focus on moving data, but when we move the data, we have the capabilities of transforming it and delivering it to the target systems in a way that's immediately usable. So you'll see that this morning when we start talking about CAD and GIS. It's not just enough to dump the CAD data into the GIS system or vice versa. You need to change the data, restructure the data so it's immediately usable in the target system. So we talk about that as being the transformation aspect of the data. So you get it in not just the format you want, but in the data model you want. And you can see in the diagram there all the different types of spatial and non-spatial data that we work with. And today we're going to be focusing on the top one, CAD, and the one at about 1 o'clock, the GIS system. Another good thing about our system is we can also bring together multiple different types of data, bring them together, and then bring them, sort of mash them up, integrate them, and then output them to one or more systems. So you're also going to see some of that as well. So, yeah.
Oh.
Okay. No worries.
Well, I remember we put this in now.
That's right. So we know that there's another product that people quite often use. It's the Esri ArcGIS Data Interoperability Extension, and that product is actually FME technology. And so what we're going to talk about here today is completely applicable in that. And we're also going to show you when we're going to GIS. Mark's also going to show you opening these target data sets up in the ArcGIS system. So you're going to see the ArcGIS data. The workbench that you see here today is applicable for both FME and the Data Interoperability Extension. And you're going to see us opening the data in the native applications as well.
Yep.
Okay, so Workbench, this is our authoring environment. Whether you're using FME Desktop or FME Server, it all starts here. This is where you author, so you don't have to write code. What you do is you simply graphically see your starting data model on the left, and then you bring it all together with these things we call transformers to produce the desired data model on the right. And it's all done through a very nice and easy to understand data flow presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next slide.
Okay, there you go. CAD and GIS. As anybody knows, these two worlds don't often see eye to eye. They're very different. CAD typically is for engineering diagrams and things like that. And moving that data to GIS system and back, as Mark says here, can be a real pain in the neck.
Yep.
Okay?
Scientific research proves it.
That's right. And anybody who's done it will, can talk to anybody who's done it, and they will back up that research for you.
Yes. So we got a couple of quick polls to do first.
Yeah. So so we'll make it really quick. So the first one is, have you used FME before? Okay. So there you go. And so the poll has been launched. And so if you've never used FME before, we're going to be reaching out to you to help you get started. And so can you see these poll questions coming in, Mark?
I can, yes. We've got
good,
79% voted.
So anyway, so we'll close that poll.
Close that.
And we'll...
Are people still voting? There we go. We'll close it.
Okay.
And I can share the results with you just so everyone can see.
Yeah, 35%, so that's great.
Yeah,
so we'll be sure to reach out and help you folks get started. And be sure to share with us the problems that you're attacking in the whole CAD to GIS area. This is really, I guess you could say it's the bread and butter of SAFE. This is where we sort of made our claim to fame, and it's an area we continue to put great effort in to make it easier and easier for you to move data between those two systems. Okay.
And we had another quick poll.
Okay. This really helps us, understand our audience better and also plan future webinars. So, this one's what CAD systems do you work with? And if you do work with other ones, please let us know in the comments or wherever you can. Just post just in the questionnaire. Just say I use, Bentley Electric, or I use, PLS CAD, or I use whatever CAD thing you use to help us understand what other systems that you use, and that can help us again identify systems that we should moving forward support. We do support about 300 different systems currently, but there's the world. If the one thing the world loves, it's more and more formats and systems. So okay,
that's
so I think there you go.
Let me share that.
Yeah, AutoCAD.
So we have a lot of AutoCAD users, which is not surprising.
Yeah, there you go. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much for that. And now I think we're going to dive into...
we've got one more very quick...
okay.
Just very quickly, which direction are you translating? Because it's useful for us to know.
Exactly.
I'm suspecting most people are CAD to GIS, and that's really what we're covering in detail today.
Okay, with a bit of GIS to CAD, right?
Yeah.
But
no, we have it 2/3... Sorry, I'm seeing the results as they're coming in. I don't know if you are, Don, but 2/3 of people are going in both directions. So that's very interesting to.
Yeah.
I'll just share that with everyone.
Yep.
So
perfect.
There we go.
Excellent. Okay. Okay. So now you're going to take it away, Mark.
I am. Yes, we're going to start doing some demonstrations. Well, let's see. What have we got? We've got 5 demos lined up today. The first one we'll do is a CAD to GIS, because that's obviously the one that most people are interested in. But then we'll do, like you said, Don, and look at data transformation and how that can improve on just a straight CAD to GIS translation. And we'll do a couple of examples of that. We'll do a GIS to CAD. And then we've got a bonus demo at the end, which we're going to throw in, which is going to be a bit of data validation. Yeah,
and you'll see as we go through these, we've focused on pretty simple demos to give you the idea of what the software can do, and so that people can see that it's not that hard to get started and to make some progress. So
exactly, yeah. So what I'm going to do first is just start up one of our applications called the FME viewer. And the reason we do this is because really the first task we like people to do when they're translating data is to check what data they're working with. And we have this tool called the FME Universal Viewer, and we have the FME Data Inspector as well. And it's just a way to inspect your data and look at it before you're starting to translate it. So what I'm going to do is open an AutoCAD file. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just click on the list of formats so you can see some of the formats we support. We've got literally hundreds of them in this formats gallery, which I hope you're seeing. And I'm going to pick AutoCAD DWG from there. And I'm going to browse for the file, which is going to be data, water, and we're going to look at tile M25. So opening data, I can change some of these parameters. I'm just going to very quickly do that, just so you can, just so you can see the data in the format it's best suited in. And this is the data we're going to be working with today. It's a set of pipelines, and if I zoom in, you'll see there's pipelines. There's distribution nodes, and there's water meters which are represented by the text. So this is a good way to look at our data before we start to translate it. But it's not just the case that we can just open CAD data on one data set at a time in here. What I can do is I can add some other information as well. So for example, I can add some map info data. Let's see if I can find that. It's in properties and parcel M25. So I can open up GIS data and CAD data at the same time in the FME viewer, and that's really a very nice piece of functionality that's pretty unique, I think. And the other thing we can do, we can even add some raster data. So I'm going to add some Mr. Sid data to this display. And let's see, I've got it in my raster folder, Mr. Sid, and let's see, I can just pick out multiple tiles to read. I'm not restricted to one tile at a time. And we'll pick out those 4 tiles, which I believe should cover this area. And it's covering the data. I can just drag that underneath, and now we can see our data on top of that raster backdrop.
And we can see that it does in fact line up, which is a good thing.
Yes, that's always helpful for for starting. But that's a good point though, because I mean, if it wasn't lining up, you'd want to know that before you started translating it.
Yeah.
So this is why it's really important to look at your data before you do anything.
That's right. So Mark, you mentioned early on that there was a data viewer and a data inspector. Why do we have both? Well,
the data inspector is the new application that's still in beta mode at the moment, but we're coming out soon. And the big advantage is that it's going to be faster. It's going to do 3D data as well, which we don't do at the moment with this. And it'll
also run on other platforms, so it'll run on natively on Linux and Mac OS ultimately.
That's right. And for the existing FME users, it's also going to have a table view for your non-spatial data. I'm sort of letting the cat out of the bag a little bit there, but
that's okay. If people are on the FME 2013 beta, they're going to see that very, very shortly. So
yes.
So
we've looked at some data. Sorry, Don. So we looked at some data there. Let's start translating it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier this product called Workbench, and this is what Workbench looks like. And so, like you said, it's this graphic tool for translating data. So what I'm going to do is create a data transformation. Again, all I need to do is specify the format of data and where that data is. So it was in the water folder, M25, and I'm going to translate it to I'm going to do a file geodatabase, and we have quite a few. In fact, if I just type geodatabase, you'll find that we've got quite a few geodatabase writers. I could do ArcSDE or Personal, but in this case I'm going to go just with the file geodatabase, the ArcObjects version.
Right. And the other version is the based on the open source or other libraries from Esri.
That's right, yes. So I'm going to put it in my output folder, and I'm going to just call it water.gdb. And so there we go. I'm just going to flip that parameter again. Okay, so that's my translation set up, and it's very simple to do that, and all I need to do is click OK, and what happens is FME scans the data, it asks me which ones I want to translate, I click OK, and we get this graphic representation that I hope you're seeing on screen now.
We are.
Good. And so the brown objects on the left are all the different layers within the AutoCAD, and the ones on the right are the different tables we're going to create in GeoDatabase. FME's thrown this blue object in there. We call that a transformer. The reason it's doing that is because a geodatabase table can't have more than one type of geometry in it, and one of those layers in AutoCAD has both lines and points in it, so we're splitting the data up into separate tables. I don't really want the lines in my output, so I'm just going to right click on that and choose the option to disable. And I can do that. I can disable things that are coming in and out of that translation very easily. So all I do to run that translation is hit that green play button, And anyone who's used FME will probably notice I'm using FME 2013 here. We've got the updated icons, which is the most obvious difference. So that translation ran, and I can look in this log window, and we translated 3,500 features in a. I've got Arc Map, so what I can do is I can browse to my output folder. I should be able to find the water, and now I can start using that data within my ArcGIS. And it's actually got the correct attributes as well. If I query on one of these pipelines, it should show the attributes that came out of the AutoCAD data. So we've got that. And we can also see that the water meter information is in there as well, and we've got the same text. If I can find a zoom in, there we go. So the text has come in the same location that it was within the AutoCAD. Okay, so that's a very basic and very quick translation from AutoCAD to geodatabase. What I want to do now is just take that translation one step further. Oh, we've got some noise going on. There we go. So I want to take this one step further and start making changes to the data, transforming it. For example, one of the things I might want to do, if I look at the, let's see, the water distribution lines, I can see all of the different attributes that exist on that data. Well, maybe I want to rename some of those attributes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this one which says year_insta. I'm just going to rename that to installation_date, for example. I could do any changes like that. So that's one of the things I might want to do. I might also want to open up this dialog, and if I click on the user attributes tab, I can see a full list of all of those different attributes, so I can change the names in here and change the types of them as well. So we're very flexible about what we let you create on the output of this, and it's very simple to do. The other thing I can do on here is click on this option which is called a fan out. And a fan out, I really love this functionality. It takes your data and it sort of spreads it out into a different layer or table or whatever for each different value of an attribute. And I find it's very useful when I'm working with CAD data, because if I got all my CAD data is on the same layer and I want to spread it out into multiple output layers, I can do that with a fan out. And in this case what I'm going to do is fan out by diameter. And by doing that, what I'm going to get, because I'm writing to geodatabase, I'm going to get a separate geodatabase table for every different diameter pipeline. And it's very simple to do that, yeah.
Yeah. So if we were working with cable, for example, you could easily fan out by cable type, and then maybe I could put all your fiber on one layer and all your copper on another layer, stuff like that. Yeah.
Or I could do it installation year and say each different year's worth of data goes to a different layer, or even a different geodatabase itself.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is just change this setting here that says I want to overwrite the existing geodatabase, i.e. what we just created before. I'm going to overwrite it completely now. If I didn't do that, I'd just be adding more and more data to it, appending it. So I'm just going to run that one as well, and that should just take a few seconds. And while it's running, I'm going to fire up ArcGIS. I closed ArcGIS, by the way, just so it doesn't lock the geodatabase I'm trying to write to. That will be a bit of a problem if I was trying to write to a geodatabase that was already open. So here we go, and again I'll just browse to that data. Whoops, it was in the output folder. And there we go. So you can see we've got a lot more tables this time when your display is catching up. And you can see we've got a different table for each diameter. So for the 8-inch pipelines we have that layer, and for the 6-inch we have a different layer, and so on. Oh, and if I query one of these again, we'll see that the attribute got changed to installation_date rather than being year insta. So now we've got well, we've gone beyond the basic translation. We've actually manipulated the data, we've spread it out, we've renamed attributes and done all sorts of things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that was a quick demo. So let's have a look at. I'm going to do another demo now, a little bit different to that. I'm going to just close this one down, and I've got another workspace that I already started, just to save a little bit of time on this process. So what this workspace does, I just created it earlier. This one's going from MicroStation rather than AutoCAD, and it's translating from MicroStation to MapInfo format.
So is it
And
MicroStation V8 or V7?
I believe that's a good. I don't know which one this particular one is. I think it might be V7, but
Okay.
we can read both V8 and V7.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. So let's have a look at the data first of all in Universal Viewer. So I'm going to open this up, and this time I'm just going to change it to DGN, and we'll call it V7. We'll browse to that data. Now where are it's in the water folder again. We'll go with the M25 one. I can look at the parameters, and this time I can split it up by level numbers and level names, and different things like that. So here we go, we've got that water data. Now what we've got, if I zoom in closely to this, is we don't have any attributes on this pipeline data this time. What we've actually got is pipeline data with a little label next to it telling us the width of each pipeline. So you can see that some pipelines are 8-inch, some are 4-inch, some are 10 or 6. So the big challenge we've got here is, well, how do we get that information off of the label and attach it to the pipeline? And we can do that with FME very easily within Workbench. So let's go back to, the other challenge about this is everything is on the same layer as well. It's all on level 1. So the other challenge is to split that data out into different levels and layers. Okay, so this is the workspace I started with. One of the things I can show you up here is the coordinate system that I've got set for the incoming data. So I basically set it to the right coordinate system. And FME will reproject this data on the output. One of the outputs I'm going to write in a moment is KML, and that needs to be in latitude and longitude. So, and FME is very good at reprojecting data. We can reproject from any coordinate system pretty much. And MicroStation isn't storing that information natively, so I'm having to define that in this setting here. But in quite a few formats you'll find that it's that information is stored automatically, and FME can just pick that information out of the data set. Okay, so we're reprojecting the data. The other thing I want to do is split it up. So we have a transformer called a geometry filter, and we saw one of these earlier that FME placed automatically. And now I'm just going to drag this into here and connect it up. And basically, a transformer is for the new users is basically an object that transforms data. It manipulates the data in some way and changes it. So I got a geometry filter in here that's going to be able to let me split the data up into points and lines and arcs. And we have different filters as well. We have an attribute filter which will let you split the data by attribute values, and all sorts of different filters like that. Now the other transformer I'm going to use is what we call a neighbor finder. And the neighbor finder transformer is what's going to help us get the label information and attach it to the pipeline. So what I'm going to do is let's see, the lines are my base features because they're requesting the information. Excuse me. And the text features that we've got coming in, they're going to be the candidates. In other words, they're going to supply information. So what we're going to do is find the nearest text label to each pipeline and read that information off there. And there's some different settings I can set within a transformer, just like I can on a reader and writer. And in this case, I can set a maximum distance. So I can say, well, look, if the nearest label is more than 50 feet away, then just ignore it because that's obviously not related.
Right, right.
So I'm going to click OK.
And if you wanted to drop a perpendicular and add a vertex to that base feature, I see on that transformer there that you could do that too, which sometimes is useful. If maybe the point was a meter or something and you wanted to connect the meter to the base. Yeah, but here you don't.
That's right. Yes. The other thing I find that useful for is transit routes. If you've got a bus stop and a bus route, right, you can find the nearest stop and insert a point on that
right
route.
There.
Closest to the stop. Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, so we've got that. We're basically taking everything that's matched and we're going to write it to the output. So what we've got coming out of here is something called IGDS text string, which is what we call a format attribute. Basically, it's the information about what the value of that text string is. So what I just can simply do is map that to the pipe diameter attribute in my output. So we're basically taking the value of that text string and creating an attribute out of it. The other thing I'm going to do is take the IGDS color, which is the color of the feature, and I'm going to map that out to an output attribute as well. And quite often people do that for something like a database like Oracle. You write to Oracle and you save all the symbology from your CAD data, like the color and the line style, and that way if you ever write the data back from Oracle to your CAD system, you know what the color is going to be and what the symbology was of that data. So that's one way that we can round trip data from CAD to GIS and then back again. Okay, so that's basically going to write the data. The other thing I can do is I can create multiple different outputs from here. And what I'm going to do is just add a writer, and I'm going to write to KML. So I'm writing to KML as well as map info at the same time. And it's perfectly permissible in FME to do things like this. You can read and write multiple inputs and multiple outputs all at the same time. So I'm going to call it pipes.kml. Okay, so now it's saying, well, do I want to create a layer in here? And I'm going to just call it water, and I'm going to create that with the pipe diameter attributes. So I'm just creating a new data set here from scratch. It doesn't already exist. I'm just creating it from nothing, and I can just change that to a different diameter. And in fact, I'm going to leave it like that. I don't really need to store color when I write to KML. So I'm going to connect that up as well. And there we go. So now I can just run that data, and I'm going to be... Wow, that was pretty quick. So I read the data. There's 860 features. You can see the little numbers on here which tell me how many features that came in.
So you want to talk about
each line...
The unmatched. So if you collapse the matched there, you'll notice you have some other tags there, and one of the things FME is used for, of course, as you're transforming data, often you find data quality issues, and what you can do with FME is FME just doesn't throw those on the ones that aren't matched away. It gives those to you too, so then you could decide, what to do with those. So you can see in this case there was 38 lines that in fact there was no match for the neighbor finder to work with. So figuring out correcting 38 lines is a heck of a lot better than trying to manually fix the 496. So FME, and then you can do things like identify on another output or one of those outputs where the problem features were, and so it can greatly help you.
That's right. And what I could do is add a writer to write it back to MicroStation on the output. So what I could just output to MicroStation the unmatched features, and then somebody could in the CAD department could take that and check what the problem was.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. So what I could do now is I could just open that up in Google Earth if I wanted to. If I look in the output folder. We've got the pipes.kml. I promised to do this and open it up in Notepad, just because Don wanted to show that this is in fact XML data that we're writing. And
there we go. Yeah. Thanks,
And
Mark.
no problem. And a webinar without XML just isn't the same, is it? So,
No, it isn't. It isn't. So there we go. So that's probably enough of that.
yeah. And I could open that up in Google Earth. I'm not going to because Google Earth tends to run pretty slowly when I'm doing it in a webinar and over an internet connection. But
if you double click it up, it would come. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm sure you can trust me. It works. In fact, what I could do is open up that tab file in the FME viewer, just to prove that yes, we have got the information we wanted, and it's got the pipe diameter attached to each of those different features. And the other thing you'll notice is the original colors that were stored in MicroStation has also been carried through. So some of these are blue, some of them are green, some of them are grey. I don't know if that's related to the pipe size. What I could do is I could say fan out by IGDS color and put them all on a different layer if that's what I wanted to do in the output. Very simple to do that. I could just split that up, and yeah. Oh, and in KML, obviously, it reprojected the data as well. When I wrote that out to KML, it obviously reprojected it to latitude and longitude.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so next demo, let's see, what have we got? We're going to do a GIS to CAD translation. I noticed that nearly 2/3 of people are doing some sort of GIS to CAD, so probably an important one to cover here. So I'm just going to get rid of that translation. And what I'm going to do here is it's going to go from an Esri shape file into MicroStation V8. We're going to write MicroStation this time. But then I'm going to write AutoCAD as well, because I know lots of people use AutoCAD. So we're going to write AutoCAD as well as MicroStation, but we'll start out with MicroStation. So again, we should probably look at the source data that we're working with. And FME data, it's in my CAD GIS folder. And it's a bunch of parks within the city of Vancouver. So we have park polygons and dog off-leash areas is what we're looking at. So we have a whole bunch of polygons, and the off-leash parks are denoted by a little symbol, which I'm just going to increase so you can see it a little bit better. So this is what we're starting out with in our shape data set, and I hope you're seeing that on screen.
Yeah, we are.
Great. Okay, so let's go back to Workbench and let's translate that data. So I'm going to generate the workspace. Again, all I need to do is put my source format in there. I'm going to browse, find the polygons and the dog leashes, and this time we're writing to MicroStation V8. And I'm going to write it to the output folder and call it parks.dgn. Now, some of the nice things I can do when I'm writing data is I can also click that parameters button and find all of the different parameters that exist within FME for my MicroStation output. For example, I can change the seed file that I'm using, defaulting to 3D in meters, and I'm just going to change it to 2D in meters, 2 dimensions. Also, I can specify the cell library, so that's what I'm going to do in my, let's see, in my CAD to GIS folder. I've got a cell library set up, and I'm going to tell FME this is the cell library we're using. Okay, so I'm just going to click OK again. That's going to generate my workspace, and that's what we've got. Okay, so I could just run that and it would create some data, but it would only create points. It wouldn't create cells or blocks, which is what I really want to do. So what we have is a transformer called a DGN styler, and as we'll see in a moment, we've got an equivalent for AutoCAD. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to basically create cells in the MicroStation output. So I'm going to open that up. Cells, I just need to specify the library again, and the cell name, what I can do is click on this, FME will scan through that cell library, pick a list of cells out, and I'm going to pick the only one that's in there. It's called Doggy Park. And we've got what sort of mode do we want to put them in. Do we want to put them in shared, or do we want to put them as library, individual? They can be relative cells, they can be rotated, they can have all sorts of different things going on here. And in fact, we could rotate it by a particular attribute value. So I could say, oh, the rotation of the symbol represents the hours that the park is open, or something like that. I'm not going to do that this time, but that's the sort of thing I can do when I'm writing this data. And the size, I'm going to make it 50 units. And again, that's something you can set to an attribute value. So I could do that for the hours. I could say the bigger the symbol, the longer that park is open. So that's one DGN styler. I'm going to create, I'm going to put another one in here now. And this one is going to just give a style to the lines. So I can color that by level. I'm not going to. I'm going to say just pick a microstation color. So 0 for the outline, and the fill is going to be number 2, which is green. And I'm going to click OK. Have I done that right? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so I'm just going to run that translation now, and when that's finished, I'm going to pull up MicroStation and I'm going to open that data. So let's see, parks.tgn, here we go. So hopefully that's just opening up now. And if I fit that to view, you'll see we've got the data there. I just need to turn on color fill to make sure it's filled properly. If I can zoom in, I can zoom in. And what I'm probably going to have to do is just turn off the... Oh, that's interesting. I didn't get any... Oh, there we go. There's the dogs. So we've got the dog cell in there on the default level. So that's what the doggy cell symbol looks like to represent the dog park. So basically we've converted to MicroStation, we've colored the polygon features, and we've created a cell as we did it. Okay, so let's go back, I think, to Workbench. And what we're going to do now is going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it for AutoCAD. Let's see, we're going to add, obviously need a new writer, so I'm going to say let's write this to AutoCAD. And as you can see, we do Map3D and other formats. We can do DWF as well as DWG. We'll stick to DWG for now. And we'll call this parks.dwg. And this time in the parameters, what I can do is I can set a template file, which is pretty much the same thing as a seed file within MicroStation. It's basically storing all of my symbology and setup like that. And I can choose how I want my...
Yeah.
Sorry,
and we support multiple releases, so somebody could pick the AutoCAD release they want to write to there. So you can see we support a great number of different releases there.
I didn't even realize there were that many.
No.
Okay, so we'll click OK and OK again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say no, I don't want to create a new layer this time, because what I can just simply do is I can select these ones from the MicroStation and say let's duplicate those. So we just duplicated them on the output, but they're going to be for AutoCAD rather than MicroStation. So now we can put the DWG styler in there, and we can do the dog off leash parks, and we'll do the same thing as we did with MicroStation, and we can say, let's see, we've got the template file. Let's pick a block out of there, and again we're going to use the doggy park, and we can set the block size as well. Let's make that 50 as well, just to make sure we can see it, and it can be ground units or scale factor or things like that, and again we can set rotation, etc. Okay, we'll just click OK on that, and we can do the same thing with the parks. I think I can set the color and fill of the parks as I write them to, let's just pick a green color. Am I doing that right? Yeah, I think so. Okay. I just reduced my screen resolution for the webinar. Now I've got to resize some windows. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to run that one, and that's going to...
You forgot to, you need to change the writer on the dog off leash and park policy.
Right,
You never
yes.
changed those, but yeah.
Yes, two things I did wrong there. I didn't tell this to write to the AutoCAD, so I need to do that. And the other the other mistake I made was, again, I've got this file open in MicroStation, and as long as I've got that open, I can't write to it at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's why it failed before. So there we go. We should have that, and I've got AutoCAD TrueView installed, and if I can figure out how to use that, you can tell I'm more a MicroStation person than AutoCAD just by looking at... okay, so I left this warning up here just because it comes up with this, and I'll mention it. If you write a DWG file with FME, it says in AutoCAD, hey, this was created, but it wasn't created by AutoCAD, you still want to open it, and yes, we do, because it's fine, it's just...
Yeah, and if you use there was another AutoCAD format there called Real DWG, and if you use that library, you won't get the warning.
Right. So, is that how I zoom in? Yeah. Anyway, you can see I've colored that. I must have selected the line color to be green rather than the fill, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And again, I think I can turn the layers off. Let me see. If I could remember how to use this. Oops. Okay, well, you're going to have to trust me on this one.
And you'll have to attend a
there we go.
Oh, there we go. You figured it
there
out.
We go.
So you're going to have to attend a TrueView webinar.
I think so, yes. So there we go. We've got the dog symbols coming up again. So that's how we basically do that to create blocks. And again, a nice thing I like about that is that we can do sort of really funky things with these stylers and make the block size related to an attribute and rotate it and do things like that, which I think is really cool. One other thing I wanted to show very quickly was a workspace. Let me find it. It's this one here. It's called Cells to Blocks. You'll see this is a bit more a complicated one. What this is just an example of something we can download from our knowledge base. We've got a knowledge base called FMEpedia, which we'll look at in a moment. And you can download all different sorts of examples from there. And this is a great example that converts MicroStation cells into AutoCAD blocks, which is really quite useful. So I just mentioned that as an example of the sort of thing we can do with FME.
So to be clear, it'll take your MicroStation cell library and convert it to AutoCAD blocks?
That's right, yes, and create, I assume it's writing a template out with that in. Yeah. So, yeah, I like that.
That's a good one, yeah.
Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is this bonus demo we talked about, and because I'm using 2013, I can show you one of the new tools we've got called the Geometry Validator transformer. So I'm going to add a reader. So what we're going to look at is validation of data and how we can validate CAD data and GIS data as we're translating it. And again, we're going to be using different transformers to achieve that.
Yeah, because one of the big uses of FME is also determining the quality of your data, so QA. So this transformer Mark's going to show is all about performing QA on the geometry, hence the name Geometry Validator.
Yes. So I'm going to put this transformer, the Geometry Validator, and let me see, we're going to look at the distribution lines, which is this one. And we've got all sorts of issues we can detect. We can pick different, let's resize that dialog a bit. So we can pick all of these different issues that we can detect, like is it self-intersecting, have we got duplicate points, have we got null geometry parts, is it a solid that's invalid, all sorts of things like that. So I'm just going to pick those, and I can choose whether to repair them or not as well. So in this case I'm going to say yes. And now I'm going to connect what I call inspectors to that transformer, and inspectors just takes the data that comes out of there and pushes it directly into the FME viewer or data inspector. So I'm going to run this, and most of my data is going to pass, I hope, but I'm hoping there's a couple of failures in there because we want to see where they are. So most of it passed, but we have a couple of failures, and one of them is down here, and we can see, well, okay, FME repaired it, and the problem it repaired was it was self-intersecting, and I can see that by looking at this little tag we add on to say what the problem was. And in fact, we even give the XY coordinate of that, so you can see where the intersection occurred, and you could go back to the original data and check that.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of validation thing we can do with FME, and we can fix them with all sorts of transformers that we've got. There's a snapper transformer, there's a clipper transformer to clip things to a set boundary. There's an intersector transformer to intersect lines. There's all sorts of different things we can do with that spatial data within FME. And again, the nice thing is it's happening as you're translating from one format to another. You're doing that fixing and checking all at the same time.
Yeah, we also have things like a topology transformer,
That's
topology
right.
builder, and again, all these things.
Yeah, I mean we've got, how many transformers is it now, Don? Oh, there you go. It says 428 different transformers. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so that was validating data in Workbench. I just wanted to mention we have another product besides the desktop product called FME Server. And Server is basically a tool for carrying out these data translations on the internet or some sort of network, basically carrying them out through a web interface. So I'm just going to show an example of how you might do that do the data validation using this FME server and doing online data validation. So if you go to fmeserver.com or safe.com even, we've got these a whole bunch of different demos that you can try, and there's a movie you can watch, but also there's a live demo, and you can do this as well anytime you like. You can come to fmeserver.com and give this a try. So we're going to look at the data validation, try this, update. So it says you're ready to try this yourself, so let's access that, and I'm going to click login and just log in as anonymous.
Yeah. And to be clear, what's going on in the background here is simply the same workspace that was run on a desktop. What you do is you simply publish that workspace. No changes are required to the server, and now the server interface looks after providing you with a way of getting data to the workspace, running it, and then getting the results. This is the FME 12 server interface. It's been completely overhauled for FME 2013.
Yes. So all I'm doing now is uploading my data to have it checked. It's a GML rather than a CAD, but it's the same process really. And now I hit run. So what I could do is, for example, I could set this up as a provider of data, or somebody who accepts data from consultants and contractors, and I can set this up for the contractor and say, well, before you submit data to me, run it through this online validation and make sure it's okay. And in this case, you can see that it obviously isn't okay. There's problems in that data that would cause it to fail. So now the person can go away and they can fix their data, and now I'm going to upload something that I know is going to work. And let's choose the good data this time. So now I'm just running this on some good data that I know is going to pass. Oh, and I put report only when validation fails, so all we get to see is that it passed validation. And there's a button there that says load data. So in other words, if I've passed the validation and all my data is correct, the end user is going to let me click that load button and put it into their corporate database or whatever they've got, and that will, I think, does that load it into Oracle if I do that, Don?
Yeah. Yeah, and so what this is simulating, of course, is once he's clicking this load button, another workspace is run. So it could be put into any database you want, or could just be put into even a staging area to be loaded later. So yeah.
Yes, but the important thing is we're just taking that workspace we had in Workbench, we put it on server, and basically let people run it over the internet and do it on their own data. So that's
yeah. Excellent. Hello? Uh-oh. So you there, Mark? Nope, it doesn't look like Mark has left the building. So I will try to pick it up. Okay, so hopefully just having a few GoToWebinar meeting issues here, which is always exciting. Okay.
Maybe post-tropical storm Sandy has
decided to. So, do you have the slides, Mark?
Nope.
You don't. Okay. Okay. Oh, something's bouncing here. This can't be good. GoToMeeting is bouncing. What's it complaining about? Okay, so I will start. Sorry about this. I will now share my screen. Screen sharing here, and we'll. More fortunately, Mark did finish all his demos. So now we just have a bit of cleanup to do here. So we're going to change the presenter. We're going to make me the presenter. Okay. Yes. Okay. Show my screen, and over here, can you see my screen, Mark? Mark, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So thanks to Mark. I'm sure he'll probably be trying to get back online in a minute. What we have now is we have just a couple of questions here. So just in summary, okay.
Hey Don, I think I'm back now.
Oh, you're back, are you?
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened there.
No worries, no worries. So, yeah, so what you saw, can you see the screen there, Mark?
Yep.
Yeah, I should be able to. Yes, I can.
Okay,
there we go.
Okay.
We're doing the summary. Okay,
so just jump in whenever you want, Mark. So in summary, what you saw today is you saw FME reading from CAD. We did some very simple translation. At first, we viewed the data because that's always the first thing you do when you're translating data is you want to look at it to see what you have and just to verify that what you have is what you think you had. And then we did some really simple translations, moving things in, doing very minimal transformation. Mark showed how easy it was to simply rename some attributes and also to split the data up into new layers using that fan-out capability. So what he did here was he used the diameter to break that up into files. And then he added a bit more, showing how with FME you can add symbology to that. He used the DGN styler and the DWG styler. We also did a GIS to CAD, and Mark also touched on one of the big areas that people use FME for, and that's all around this idea of determining the quality of the data. So performing QA. Many of these CAD drawings are historic, and they were built for really printing things out on a sheet of paper to give to people in the field. Now, as we move into the digital world, these CAD drawings need to be make sure that they node properly and the cross tiles they map together and things like that. So with FME, we hope we've shown that it's easy to get started. And the nice thing about the whole Workbench environment is you can start really simple and then build up. And what you can also do is, because it's a data flow diagramming tool, you can now start to communicate with people who understand the data, whether they're and the systems, whether or not they're technical. Whereas if you were writing hand code, that's very, very difficult to use them as a way to communicate. So yeah. Anything you want to throw in there, Mark?
Not particularly. I mean, you mentioned writing code. I mean, you can just, like you said, you can replace all that with FME Workspace, or you can embed FME into existing tools that you're creating. But that's a topic for another day.
Yeah. So we have another poll here. So who's going to launch this poll?
I think. Can I do that? I think I can. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Let's launch that poll. Okay. So yeah. having seen FME in action, what do you think you might be able to use it for? And
what are the choices here? I can't see this.
so the choices are translating data from CAD to GIS or GIS to CAD, transforming the structure and content, reprojecting, and validating spatial data.
Okay, good.
And so people are still voting, so I'll just leave it open for another few seconds. Probably because
and again, this is very valuable for us as we move forward. One of the things that Mark showed was in 2013 was strengthening our data validation capabilities. So okay, so let's.
And it also it tells us what to do in future webinars.
Exactly.
As well. So, and what we did today was mostly predicated on what people have answered in the past.
Yeah. Okay.
So there we go.
Okay, so so that's that one, and are we gonna? Do we have a? Oh yeah, learn more about FME. So there's some slides there, some links, FME.ly, intro, and safe.com for a free eval. If you want to give it a try, try on your own data, please download. There's free webinars. If you want to give it a try and you've never used FME, be sure to reach out to us and explain your challenges, and we'll be happy to help get you started and save you lots of time and greatly increase your chance of being successful. And look at that, we're going to Vegas at the end of November, and we're booth 606. Okay.
Nice. I should mention now on the webinar front, we got the raster one, and then there is another one as well on FME performance and how to get the most out of performance in FME, and that's sometime in December.
Yes. That's a very good one. Talks about not just FME tricks, but also how to configure your environment to get the most in performance. So now we have a special offer. You can win free training, and it's any online course. So the courses you can win there are at safe.com/training. If you win, you can pick whatever courses you want. And so I think we're going to launch another poll on that.
We are, yes.
Okay.
There we go. So we'll leave that open for a few seconds just so everyone can vote. I just put this in. I didn't ask the marketing team if they agreed with giving away training. It's too late now. I'm sure they'd be fine. We should give away training. It's always
Yeah.
Okay.
You're so much more effective when you learn to use a tool than Otherwise, it's a shiny thing.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is just a desktop training, but we've got other training that occurs as well for server and databases and stuff like that.
Yeah, if I won, I'd just pick as many courses until somebody said stop. But anyway, that's
Well, 70% said yes, please, and 10% said
exactly.
Yes,
So have you shut down that poll now, or?
I've shut that down, yes.
Okay.
I won't share the results of that one. That's just
no. So today's webinar was recorded as well. It was not recorded on an 8-track tape. And again, all the webinars that we've ever recorded are on, you can see them there at fme.ly/archive. So if you want to watch it again, or there's a particular part of this webinar you want to see again, or you think it would be valuable to others, please share that and visit as often as you would like.
Yep.
And we'll be following up. You'll be getting email just thanking you for coming to the webinar and things like that.
I should perhaps mention, as well as the recorded webinars, we've got recorded training courses on there as well.
That's right. Yeah, good point. So we probably have a time for one or two questions.
We had a large number of questions. We've been, three of us been whacking away at. On the question about what CAD system you're using, there were a lot of others thrown in there. People said, well, I'm also using IntelliCAD, Bentley Map, PLS CAD, Topo CAD, and a group in the Netherlands, NetView Pro. So a lot of other CAD systems out there that people are working with. We've had a lot of questions about BIM and 3D support coming in and whether FME supports those formats, and we have had a past webinar on that, so you can go to our webinar website and have a look at that.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work on BIM and 3D systems, and that's one of the major areas that I guess we've been supporting BIM and 3D for probably 3 releases of FME now, and each release of FME, again, we add more and more 3D and BIM. BIM is building information modeling, and so we've been adding more support for those things as well. So again, if there's anything in particular you want to do for those, let us know. And if you are working with BIM or 3D data, again, we really encourage you to reach out to us and let us know what your challenge is with that data.
And do we support AutoCAD 2013? Yes, we will do with FME
2013,
right,
which is in beta now and will ship in January. So, yeah, so great. So,
and if there's any question, sorry, Don, if there's any questions we didn't answer, then we'll follow up with you and answer them. So we won't ignore any questions you've asked.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So thank you so much for attending this morning or this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you are. We really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us. We know the most valuable thing for everybody is time, and we really appreciate it. And I'd like to thank Mark Stokes and Dan Eisminger, and was Robin Rennie? Robin Rennie as well, who were answering questions as they came in, and we will answer all the questions. We'll continue to answer them after the webinar and make sure that you get your answers. And thank you, Mark, for, Mark's stationed in our easternmost office in Canada in Winnipeg, and we really appreciate you putting this whole thing together, Mark.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay. And with that, I think we will sign off and say, see you next time.
Yeah, and we will keep answering some of the questions if you stay on, if you've asked the question.
Okay, yeah, great. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.